Chapter 9. Watching. The Jumbie hid in the bushes as the children crossed her path. She watched each of them, especially her sister's child. "Last one in's made of lizard guts," the taller boy said. The smallest boy held his nose and pointed to his feet. The others squealed, "No stinky feet," and ran down to the river. But it was the small, quiet boy who flipped from a rock into the river before the rest of them. Her sister's child had hesitated before she joined the others, and the Jumbie watched them tease her for it. The Jumbie listened to the sound of their laughter and the sound of the water lapping against her skin. She watched them dive under the water and then come back up for air, gasping if they had stayed too long beneath the surface. She understood her sister's fascination with people, their brown skin and dark eyes, even the clumsy way they moved. The little girl and her father were more graceful than most. The Jumbie had found their house earlier and watched them go about their morning. The man was especially graceful when he was on the water. His muscles rippled beneath his sun-darkened skin as smoothly as rolling waves. He was certainly interesting. She would take care to observe the man and child up close, to understand how they had lured her sister away from her own kind. She wanted to understand this before she decided what to do with them. The children floating on the water reminded her of the men who had come to the island long ago on large wooden islands they called ships. The ships had bright cloth that billowed above them like stiff clouds. It was marvelous the way they moved. She remembered how she swam out to greet the sailors, but gasped when she realized it was trees they had cut down to create their ships. The sailors had attacked her as she climbed up the hull. When she fought back and pulled the men under the waves, they gulped the water, sending up smaller and smaller bubbles of air until their bodies went as limp as weeds. The children are just like those men, she thought, perhaps even more fragile. The Jumbie crouched lower. A small red lizard scurried out from the grass. She caught it with her fingers and shoved it into her mouth. As she watched other lizards pass by, she picked them one by one and had them for snacks. She drew on their energy and gathered enough strength to change. Her skin took on the mossy green color of the tree trunks around her. Except for the green cloth that was wrapped around her body, she was now nearly indistinguishable from her surroundings, transparent. She tugged at the cloth and let it slip to the ground and hid it under a rock. Then she crawled to the edge of the river. As she went, her skin took on the color of everything she passed: dirt, stone, tree, grass. She was like a ripple of water moving closer to her target. She sat on a stone in the muddy shore, completely invisible to the children. She would be able to observe them up close. Then she saw the witch on the far shore. As silent as a breath, the Jumbie slipped into the water. She took her time diving deep, then swam beneath the playing children and stood on the riverbed beneath their kicking feet. The Jumbie planned her attack. Who should she take down first? Their legs paddled above her head. She decided on the biggest one, the boy. She pushed off from the bottom and glided upwards. Her fingers reached towards their toes.